drama or a scary horror movie. I watched a comedy. It was a new cartoon movie about a small and clumsy robot who wants to be a chef. It sounds a bit silly, but it was exactly what I needed. The movie was hilarious. There was this one specific scene where the little robot tries to crack an egg to make an omelette, but he accidentally uses his laser eyes and explodes the whole kitchen. I laughed so hard. I laughed many times throughout the film. This is another great way to share happiness, because you can simply retell a funny story or describe a scene from a movie that made you laugh. When you tell a story like this, remember to change your verbs to the past tense. So you say, I watched the movie and I laughed at the jokes. I think that laughter is truly the best medicine. The movie was colorful and the story was sweet and it made me feel light and happy. If you are feeling a bit stressed, I highly recommend watching something funny because it shifts your perspective. So we have talked about a lovely family dinner and a hilarious movie. These are two different types of happy moments where one is about connection and warmth while the other is about entertainment and laughter. Both are valid and both are great topics for conversation. When you are speaking English, you should try to share these details. Do not just say, I had a good weekend. Say, I had a lovely dinner, or I watched a funny movie. By adding these details, you make your English sound more natural and engaging. You invite the listener into your world. Now, I want to challenge you to think about your own life. We often let the days pass by without noticing the good things, so I want you to find a specific happy moment for you from this week. Not from last year, and not from your childhood, but from the last few days. It might be difficult to think of one immediately because we are trained to focus on problems, but take your time. Let me think about my own week. If I look back at my calendar and my memories, I can find a few gems. Actually, I know exactly which moment I want to share with you. It happened yesterday, and it was quite unexpected. It involves a telephone and an old friend. But before I tell you that story, I want to remind you of the structure we are using. We are using the past tense to set the scene. We are using adjectives like lovely and funny to describe the feeling. And most importantly, we are connecting the event to the emotion. I felt happy because I saw my family, or I felt relaxed because I watched a movie. This cause and effect structure is the foundation of sharing feelings. Let us dig a little deeper into the vocabulary of happiness. When I described my family dinner, I used the word cozy. Cozy is a wonderful word that means warm, comfortable, and safe. It usually implies a small space or a close group of people. A big, cold, empty hall is not cozy, but a small kitchen with good food and family is very cozy. Learning these specific words helps you paint a picture in the listener mind. And when I describe the movie, I use the word hilarious. Hilarious means very, very funny. If you say a movie was funny, it means you smiled, but if you say it was hilarious, it means you laughed out loud. These subtle differences in vocabulary allow you to express the intensity of your happiness. So my goal for you in this first part of our lesson is to start noticing these moments in your own life. Pay attention to the cozy dinners and pay attention to the hilarious jokes. Start practicing the sentences in your head, like I went to the park and it was beautiful, or I ate a good meal and it was delicious. Simple sentences are the building blocks of great fluency. In the next part of this session, I am going to share a story about friendship and a story about a very special cup of coffee. Yes, even a cup of coffee can be a story if you know how to describe it properly. So stay tuned as we continue to explore the language of joy and positivity. Welcome back as we continue our exploration of happy moments. In the previous part, I mentioned that I had a special moment involving a phone call, so let me tell you all about it. Yesterday, something quite unexpected and wonderful happened. My phone rang, and when I looked at the screen, I saw the name Tom. Tom is one of my oldest friends, and we went to school together many years ago. Over time, people drift apart, and he moved to another city for work, so we do not speak very often anymore. Usually, we just send a quick text message on birthdays, but yesterday he called me out of the blue. To call out of the blue is a great idiom, which means to call unexpectedly or without warning. I answered the phone, and we ended up talking for one whole hour. That is a very long time for a phone call these days, but we had so much to catch up on. I want to pause here and teach you a very useful phrasal verb, which is to catch up. To catch up means to talk to someone you have not seen for a while and learn the latest news about their life. You catch up on work and you catch up on family news and you catch up on everything. During our call, Tom and I talked about many things. We discussed our jobs and the movies we have seen recently, but the best part was talking about old times. When I say old times, I am referring to the memories we share from the past. There is a special kind of happiness that comes from nostalgia. We remembered playing football in the park after school when we were just 10 years old. We talked about the time we accidentally broke a window and were so scared. It was not funny back then, but it is very funny now. We laughed about our old teachers and the silly things we did as children. Talking about the past with someone who was there creates a very warm feeling of connection. After the call finished, I sat there for a moment and I realized how I felt. I felt incredibly happy and lighter, as if a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I put the phone down and I realized I was smiling. That conversation gave me energy for the rest of the day. This story illustrates that connection with friends is definitely a top-tier happy moment. It reminds us that we are not alone and that we have a shared history with people. So if you have a friend you have not spoken to in a while, maybe you should call them to catch up, because it might become your happy moment of the week. Now, let us shift gears completely. My moment with Tom was about people and memories and deep connection, but happiness does not always have to be deep or social. Sometimes happiness is very quiet and solitary. I want to share another happy moment with you that happened this morning right in my kitchen. It was not a big event, and I did not win the lottery or get a promotion, but it felt just as good. My happy moment was that I made a perfect cup of coffee. You might be thinking that a cup of coffee is a very small thing, and you are right. It is a small thing, but usually my coffee is a bit too bitter or too watery, or maybe it gets cold too quickly. But today was different, because today it was just right. Let me describe it to you so you can learn some sensory vocabulary. I used fresh beans, which makes a huge difference. The coffee was dark, hot and rich, but the secret was the milk. I heated the milk until it was perfectly frothy. Frothy is a fun word to say, and it is an excellent descriptive word, which is spelled F-R-O-T-H-Y. Frothy means the liquid has many small bubbles on top. Think of the white foam on top of a cappuccino, or the bubbles in a bubble bath, because that is froth. So I had this hot coffee with the frothy milk, and I sat by the window. I smelt the delicious aroma of the roasted beans and took the first sip, and it tasted like heaven. It was a sensory experience that only lasted about 10 minutes, but it made me smile. It started my day in a happy and positive way. I think there is a very important lesson here for all English learners. Sometimes we think we can only talk about big things like vacations or new cars, but actually happiness can be found in a small bubble in a coffee cup. Learning to describe these small textures and tastes makes your English much more advanced. Instead of saying the coffee was good, you say it was frothy and rich. This is how you move from beginner to intermediate and advanced levels, by adding detail and color to your speech. Let us look at the grammar of happiness in these examples. When you want to explain why you are happy, you can use a few specific structures. You can say, it made me, followed by a verb, for example, the movie was funny so it made me laugh, or the coffee was delicious so it made me smile. Another structure is, I felt happy, when followed by an action, like I felt happy when I talked to my friend. Or you can simply use because, like saying it was a happy moment because the coffee was perfect. You see, it is actually quite easy, and you do not need complicated words to share joy. You just need to describe the feeling and the reason. Speaking of feelings, there is another specific word for a happy feeling that I want to introduce, which is a word we use when we do something well or achieve a goal. That word is proud. Proud means you feel a deep sense of satisfaction because of something you achieved, or something someone close to you achieved. For example, when I was a child, I had a shiny red bicycle, and I was so proud of that bike, but more importantly, I was proud that I could ride it by myself without falling. That feeling of accomplishment is what we call pride. We can feel proud of small things like making a good coffee, or big things like passing an exam. In the next part of the series, we're going to talk about much bigger achievements. We will talk about travel and dreams coming true. I will share a story about a trip to a famous city and how seeing a famous clock tower made me feel overwhelmed with joy. But for now, I want you to focus on the small things. Focus on the catch-up calls with friends, and focus on the frothy coffee, and focus on the warm sunshine. These are the daily building blocks of a happy life, and they are the best subjects for practicing your English conversation. Start looking for your happy moment today, and think about which adjectives you would use to describe it. Would it be lovely, or would it be cozy, or would it be frothy? Because the choice is yours. Hello everyone, and welcome back to our lesson on expressing happiness. In the previous part, we discussed feeling proud of small achievements like riding a bike or making a great cup of coffee, but now I want to shift our focus to something much bigger. We are going to talk about monumental happy moments. The word monumental means very big and important, like a monument, and these are the moments that stand out in our memories for years. For me, my monumental happy moment was when I finally visited London. This story is a perfect example of how to talk about travel and dreams, because it combines deep emotion with specific vocabulary. It happened 2 years ago, and I remember the date perfectly. It was my very first time in England, and I stepped off the plane, and even though the air was cold, I did not care because I was just so excited. I want to pause here for a very important grammar point because many students confuse the words excited and exciting. Listen carefully to the difference. Excited describes my feeling, so I felt excited. Exciting describes the situation or the place, so London is exciting. So remember, if you are talking about your own heart, use the ed ending and say, I was excited. During that trip, I saw many iconic things. I saw the London Eye spinning slowly by the river, and I saw the majestic Tower Bridge opening up for a boat. But the absolute best part for me was Big Ben. The big famous clock tower, because I had seen it in movies and on postcards for my whole life, but seeing it with my own eyes was completely different. It was massive, and it stood there tall and golden, and the sun was shining right on the clock face. I literally stopped walking and just stared at it with my mouth open. I probably looked like a very confused tourist, but I was just overwhelmed with joy. This leads to a very common behavior when we are happy on holiday, which is taking too many photos. I went a little bit crazy with my camera, and I think I took maybe 100 photos of that one clock. I took a photo from the front, and I took a photo from the side, and I took a selfie with the clock. I even took a photo from far away, pretending to hold the clock in my hand. My phone storage was full after 1 hour, but I do not regret it because every time I look at those photos now, I remember that special feeling. This experience brings us to a beautiful English idiom that I want you to learn. That idiom is a dream come true. We use this phrase when a big wish or something you have wanted for a very long time finally becomes reality. For me, standing in front of Big Ben was a dream come true. You can use this for many situations, like getting your dream job is a dream come true, or meeting your hero is a dream come true. It is a phrase reserved for those top-tier moments of life. I want you to think about your own life and ask yourself, what is your dream? Is it to travel to a specific country, or is it to buy a house, or is it to speak English perfectly? Writing your dream down is the first step to making it a dream come true. So when you tell your story about a big achievement, remember to use this phrase to show just how important it was to you. When you combine the grammar of excited and exciting with the vocabulary of monumental and the idiom dream come true, you have all the tools you need to tell a powerful story. In the next section, we will move away from big travel stories and look at the simple daily pleasures that bring us instant happiness, like food and music. We have talked about small moments, and we have talked about big dreams, like traveling to London, but there are other things in life that give us what I call instant happiness. These are simple pleasures that change our mood immediately, and usually the fastest way to happiness is through our stomach. Let us talk about food, because food makes people happy, and it is a universal truth. A delicious meal can turn a bad day into a good day instantly. For me, the ultimate happy food is pizza. But when you describe food in English, try not to just use the word delicious. Try to be more specific with your sensory details. For example, when I talk about my favorite pepperoni pizza, I talk about the texture. When the pizza arrives, it must be hot, and when you pick up a slice, the cheese must be melty. Melty comes from the verb melt, and it means the cheese is soft and liquidy from the heat. And here is the most important part, which is the stretch. When you pull the slice away, the cheese stretches and becomes long and stringy, connecting your hand to the box. That visual description makes the listener hungry and helps them understand your happiness. Of course, not everyone loves savory food like pizza. Savory means food that is salty or spicy. Some people prefer sweet things. For example, my friend Emma loves dark chocolate, and she describes it as rich and intense. One small piece of dark chocolate with a cup of tea helps her relax, and it makes a stressful day feel better. So whether you like savory and cheesy or sweet and rich, using these descriptive words helps you share your joy more effectively. Another source of instant happiness is music, because music is a powerful mood changer. Listening to your favorite song can be a huge happy moment. I have to admit that when I am in my car, I act like a rock star. When my favorite song plays on the radio, I turn the volume up and I sing very loudly. My singing might not be very good and my neighbors might not like it, but the happiness comes from the energy, not the talent. For me, the song Here Comes the Sun always makes me feel calm and hopeful. Even if it is raining outside, that song brings the sunshine into my head. You can say phrases like, this song makes me feel great, or this song lifts my mood. Think of it like lifting a heavy box, because the music lifts your heavy feelings up and throws them away. Finally, I want to mention a very specific type of happiness that is relevant to all of you watching this, which is the happiness of learning. I call it the light bulb moment. You know that feeling when you are studying English and you see a new word and you just do not understand it and you feel stuck and frustrated, but then suddenly click and you understand and it makes sense. That moment is pure joy because it makes you feel capable and smart. You feel proud of your brain. For example, maybe before today you did not know the word frothy or the idiom dream come true, but now you know them and that is an achievement. Do not ignore these moments. When you learn a new grammar rule or memorize 5 new words, you should celebrate it because it is a happy moment and we are happy for you. So keep looking for these small wins in your daily life because they add up to a very happy journey of learning. We have covered sensory happiness from food and music and intellectual happiness from learning. These are accessible to everyone every single day. In the next part of our lesson, we are going to look at social happiness and how to share joy with others because happiness is always better when it is shared. Stay tuned as we explore the language of congratulations and celebration. We are now moving into a very interesting phase of our discussion where we look outward instead of inward because happiness is rarely a solitary experience. In the previous sessions, we talked about our own happy moments, like making coffee or visiting London. However, there is a very important social skill that every English learner needs to master, which is how to react when someone else is happy.